Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
If you like listening to Simplified, you must listen to other IVM productions like On Course, an excellent podcast for getting information on foreign education and getting you there. New episodes out every Monday. Check it out on the various podcasting apps and on the IVM podcast app as well.
Hello and welcome to Simblified, our fortnightly podcast on attempting to make the world a little smarter, starting with the three of us, actually. Yes.
It's still work in progress, very much.
And as you can notice by a change in tone, this is an absolutely unscripted episode. So we're going to start. Naren, what's happening in your factory these days?
Well, we've been doing interesting things. We've been making things to make the world a better place. Starting with my house. But
Sabka bhala ho, pehle mera ho.
Things go on and everyone is waiting as far as work is concerned, everyone is waiting for the GST to kick in. So no one knows what it's going to be like.
Whether it's going to kick in or kick you in the balls. No one knows.
And we are living in wonderful times, so no one is ever alone. You always have the phone. Hey, that's like poetry. No one's ever alone.
If there's a GST, is there a GSC also?
GSC?
Yeah, like SCST.
No.
Yeah.
Naren has such an innocent laugh. He's genuinely amused by our jokes, Jack.
Okay, cool. So, we have an announcement for you. Naren seems to have taken our fortnightly dismembering of WhatsApp forwards a little too seriously on a section called Profundity of the Day, and is dedicating this episode to the why, what, and wherefore of WhatsApp messages. Listeners from the US or UK who use WhatsApp for daily communications purposes, who are not aware of the level of cult that happens on Indian WhatsApp family groups or building groups.
We highly recommend you try and join one. Reach out to your Indian friend and ask. The pain is real. So Naren seems to have crossed over to the dark side, I fear, and we must humor him, however. Let's find out what he has to say, Chuck.
So Naren, what in a nutshell is our topic for simplification today?
I thought you would never ask. Well, we've been regularly taking off on WhatsApp forwards on this podcast, right? And the typical forward we poke fun at are all those which we receive in our building or family WhatsApp groups. You know the one, fake positivism, pride in some made-up national achievement, some completely fake medical theory purporting to be a message issued in the interest of the general public. Most of them are harmless and some of them are vile. And my question is, why do people share them? What makes perfectly normal and decent people endorse some patently fake or obnoxious point of view by sharing it?
Good question. I actually remember a particularly awesome forward I received recently, a forward which extolled the wealth and intellect of India.
I know this one. Let me, one second. I have this saved somewhere on my phone. Let me see. Here it is. Okay, yes. Ha! Ready to move to India! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Richest country in the world! Eye-opener! Please forward this email to as many Indians.
Email?
Yeah, we know how old it is now. And right now India is the richest country in the world. Wondering how? It's really amazing. Number 1. It's due to Mr. G. Vaidhyaraj, who donated all his wealth, about which he actually did not know. He is descendant of Raja Krishnadev Raya from Mysore district.
It was gratifying to know that Raja Krishnadev Raya lived in Mysore.
It's like every statement is a testimonial to someone at least.
So it further goes on to say, so I've got the WhatsApp forward too. And for the last 300 years or so, 3 stones are worshipped in the house. The TLDR of it is that they turned out to be huge diamonds, right?
Wow.
They were like 4,600 carats something, and it's very dramatically explained. When he touched it, some portion of the stone was cleansed and he saw a bright ray of light.
Was it a stone or was he he stoned?
It's like the WhatsApp forward, Indian WhatsApp forwards have to be like the movies also, na? Like sub mix hona chahiye.
Yeah.
Tragedy, comedy, drama, everything is there.
All in the space of 200 by 200.
Yeah.
The cost of a single diamond, and he has several of them, okay, exceeds the GDP of USA and the UK, okay. So even the World Bank doesn't have enough money to buy it.
As if the World Bank goes around buying jewelry. I'm sure that the people who forward things like this are the same type of people who thinks that World Bank gives credit cards and debit cards. I'm sorry.
मेरे पास वर्ल्ड बैंक है. ऐड नहीं देखा आजकल. हम है ना.
So basically it goes on to talk about how it's a lot of full of really ridiculous.
So India can buy virtually 7 developing nations. So I don't know, like, how this is phrased. Like here, I'm going to point out grammatical faults also. Can buy virtually, like it virtually can buy 7 developing nations. Matlab, you buy the like government websites or something, or like which are these 7 developing nations? Like I don't want like any random nation, dude. Like,
and one very interesting part of this, after discussing in great detail what the cost and how valuable these stones are, our Prime Minister has refused to sell it. Modi ji has to step in here.
Yeah.
So,
but then this was, remember, this happened. This was an email. So it
could
was
be
Modi's time.
No, I'm thinking email, so it could have even the previous BJP government. Vajpayee they're talking about here. Our Prime Minister has refused to sell it. He said it will be sold or mortgaged for credit when we need it. Otherwise, right now we have no problems.
No problems at all. Yeah.
You can go through Times of India with a small column on it a week ago. Now, when is this week? It is clearly after a time when Times of India was around.
Star TV presented a 115-minute documentary on it 15 days ago. The Hindu with its half-page article on it. After that, it was censored as classified. So
I swear, after it comes in the newspaper, it gets censored as classified.
Of this country is in
good hands.
So that was one part of the forward.
Yeah.
The second part of the forward was there is so much oil and gas in the Rajasthan which borders Sindh. This stores what Kuwait has in its stomach. So that's what
I love the way the phrasing comes. Yeah. Kuwait has in its stomach.
And the third part of the forward is that the India can go with the ONGC energy reserve within another 30 years, and moreover it can export it to other counties.
Great. Bharatshire.
So the third part of the WhatsApp forward was about
the Indian boy. This is the best of the lot.
This is my favorite. It's about the Indian boy in his 12th standard who has disproved Einstein's theory of relativity.
I have disproved several theories many times during exams.
Actually, when I was in engineering, we had this compressor lab, air compressor lab. So basically, there's air compressor is a motor, and it runs and air gets compressed, and you take readings, and then you calculate the efficiency of the compressor. And I had taken readings. I don't know what I was doing. I cocked up the entire readings. And then I go to the examiner. So it happened to be an external guy. So he was, he took a look at my readings, and he made me tabulate everything. And he asked me for all the equations, which I knew because I had all mugged up everything. And after I wrote down all my equations and gave him all my readings, he proved to me that the air compressor was actually rotating the motor, and the motor was supplying electricity to the rest of Karnataka. I thought, beta, you have failed. But he actually passed me. Yeah. I don't know. Compassionate guy. And,
so Indian boy
disproving, So that
you're so bad, I need to see you out there in the world.
So the boy who disproved Einstein's theory of relativity.
Sudarshan Reddy has theoretically proven the existence of a subatomic particle which can travel at speed greater than that of light, thereby challenging one of the fundamental postulates of the theory of relativity.
I love the pseudoscience angle of this.
Yeah, like postulates.
It's not completely bullshit.
The postulates word is there, so it has to be legit.
No, I mean, it's not completely bullshit. It makes some sense, but it's actually fundamentally bullshit.
So, in his recent research paper submitted to the Institute of Advanced Physics at Trieste, Italy, Sudarshan has proved that the existence of a class of subatomic particles called leptons, which can travel faster than light. The international physics community is shocked by this discovery. Actually, in the real spirit of WhatsApp forward, they should have fainted and not go. But that hasn't happened. So
Okay, it goes on to say Dr. something Martelli, president of the IAP, has this to say about the paper submitted by Sudarshan. I can confidently say that Sudarshan's research papers show tremendous leap in our understanding of physics. His investigation mounts up on leptons. His work builds substantially on the work of Einstein and others in the field of relativity, which actually counteracts what he said earlier. He said disproves the theory. Here he
now
says
it's
builds
building on.
So,
But what follows is the
it's
the magnum opus of this particular forward.
Yeah.
It says
this is what tells you the forward is really serious.
I know.
Yeah.
It says when physicists from Princeton University tried to measure Sudarshan's IQ with an IQ meter at the American Embassy in Delhi, so as to add the credibility of place, the meter broke down.
The meter broke down.
I mean, this is
just like a music student starting off, the meter broke down.
the meter. And Sudarshan incidentally is the brother of Madhu Reddy, Indian whiz kid who developed an operating system superior to Microsoft Windows. So superior we have never heard of it. We should be proud of all these boys. And then comes the final clincher. Please forward this email to as many Indians as possible. Jai Hind.
Okay, we need a moment to recover from this.
Yes. This and a lot more detailed dissection of WhatsApp forwards on the other side of this break. Please do come back.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Amit Verma, the host of the weekly podcast The Seen and the Unseen. In my show, I examine the seen effects and the unintended consequences of public policy and private action. I show how policies meant to help the poor often end up hurting the poor. I've done episodes so far on demonetization, GST, surgical strikes, immigration and MRP. And I will continue my forensic assault on the truth in the weeks to come.
Catch the show every Monday on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you prefer. Or visit seenunseen.in for all the latest updates.
Well, we are back, and after paying the the necessary obeisance to the
WhatsApp
master the masterful person who has actually sat and
I want to meet the author of this.
I
Actually.
strongly suspect this is Sitin Vadukut but
A marketing plan.
And,
Yeah.
and I almost feel like it's like the previous forward that we read is actually an email forward, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like test match cricketers who are like of yore, who say, in our days we used to play real test cricket. Now your WhatsApp forwards are all crap, and you're putting such small WhatsApp forwards. We used to write real epics.
Long,
Like it's almost like that. The email forward is looking down on the WhatsApp forward.
It's like I remember, I think Bosi wrote an article, son of Bosi, one of the finest satirists in India, Anand Ramachandran. He remember, I think I wrote, I forgot who wrote, but basically these match fixers now look down on spot fixers, saying that just in the same thing, these people don't know, they don't have the patience to bet on a full match, so they're betting on every ball like rubbish. So it's almost similar. I don't know whether Anand or I wrote it, but in any case it was brilliant. So
On that very modest note, let's continue.
The question that I wanted to look into in this episode of Simblified, I looked around and I found no coherent theories about why this happens. Why do people bother doing this? So why do they cobble a bunch of theories together? Obviously fake facts, obviously fake theories.
Yeah, just to be clear, we are not breaking down the WhatsApp forward by itself. We are not seeing whether there's an actual IQ meter or anything like that. Maybe that's something for another episode. But this is
so awesome.
We are going to take a little step back for this particular one.
Yeah. So the question that has been troubling me, and that's why I asked a simplified episode on this, is why would people do this? What is in it for them? So, and it's egregiously bad. So it's like outstandingly bad. And we have the kind of facts and factoids that nobody in their right mind would believe.
Yeah. And the thing is, it comes without statistics, right? On WhatsApp, you don't know how widely read your
So you
messages.
really
can't-
never know whether it's viral or not.
Yeah. The one thumb rule I know that, like, for example, whenever WhatsApp ideas have been thrown around in the advertising industry, they say if your message comes back to you, you know it's gone viral. Which is not
that's
very...
a good rule of thumb, yeah.
My theory is that people forward WhatsApp messages because they want to be perceived as funny or wise, or both actually. And knowing that the probability of that happening is very low, they do the best they can to increase the likelihood of the of events with low probability. They increase repetitions. So you have people pushing across anything that has even a remote chance of being seen as halfway sensible.
Yeah. And the biggest casualty of all this is that they really don't have time to read other messages in the group, which results in the same message being forwarded half a dozen times in succession.
So, adding to that, see, like WhatsApp has become comfort zone, like for most Indians. Insulated from the corrosive atmosphere of common sense and logic, people feel free to create wacky theories reinforcing some comforting trope, like we are like our superior intellect as a nation, or the healing benefits of urine or something. So you make nonsense on anything and it gives you, it's like they say, like the keyboard has empowered everybody. Like, boss, there are some people who shouldn't be empowered. Like,
really, you best left unempowered. Yeah.
I've thought that keyboard sales should be accompanied by minimum IQ levels.
And yeah, I mean, the conversations also in the WhatsApp group, like you said about the comfort zone, they spiral around platitudes. Where the comfort lies, basking in the warmth of consensus.
Okay. Wow, sir. What profound. Very good. Thumbs up.
Should someone dissent, they are either ticked off, or if the dissenter is making too much sense to permit ticking off, ignored. After a while, the dissenter usually buzzes off, as in the case of some people I know. This is forwards in podcasts.
This is true. I know exactly who you're talking about. I have taken it upon myself to be the killjoy in chief of both my building WhatsApp group and family WhatsApp group. So every time one of these nonsense things comes about, what most smart people would do is just leave it alone.
No.
I read the whole thing, find like a point, like, no, actually, this is actually false. And I'm routinely ignored. So,
one other standard defense.
And you get looks, okay, when you actually physically meet those people.
And the problem, all of these guys are like teachers and doctors.
I know. I think one common defense that comes, I mean, if you're one third thing that also happens other than being ticked off or ignored, is that this thing is almost like I just forwarded something I got. That is the defense. That's almost like
forwarded
a defense.
as received.
Forwarded. They write it in the bottom of the forward only. Forwarded as received. So it is not my responsibility.
No, this is exactly RTs are not endorsement. Exactly RTs are not endorsement.
It's like, I know, it's very much that. He's like, I have no responsibility of this. Lena hai to le, nahi to aage ja.
Yeah, the question is, why is it that WhatsApp is particularly awful, far more than comparable platforms of moronicity like Facebook or Twitter?
I wouldn't rate Twitter as particularly lacking in moronicity, as you put it. Is that even a word? Is that even a city?
I don't think it's a Scrabble word, but it would be very surprising if it wasn't.
We should start a fake WhatsApp forward saying moronicity is a word.
So another question that occurs to me is, does the fakeness of the content of WhatsApp messages affect the thinking of its recipient? So you get bombarded by so many obviously fake things. Do people start believing it at some level?
I think they do.
I think there are one or two things. They do probably do. Yeah.
I think what it does is because of the nature of WhatsApp groups versus Twitter. So when you're talking versus Twitter and these other platforms, they are still public platforms where, say, a third party who has a opinion or point of view can jump in and make that conversation. So it still feels like a public space.
Correct.
As we can see, like a whole bunch of people we have discovered who are not very prolific on Twitter are very vocal on WhatsApp groups because they sense that protective bubble, that comfort zone, as we talked about earlier. So what that does is, because of that comfort zone, they are vocal and they express their thoughts that much more easily, and they are also that the protection of the bubble allows them to express what they really feel about something, and they express their opinions in terms of facts.
This is well said. It's the key difference between Facebook, Twitter and WhatsApp is WhatsApp is a closed group. And you have no fear of outside scrutiny. So
exactly. Also, there is
say whatever you like.
Also, there is a technical fact that the forwards come on WhatsApp. So it's like a medium amenable to, you have to, in 3 clicks, it's on another group.
I call it the ideological nudist camp. So what happens is,
Amazing. Go on.
Basically, when, if like we're all sitting here and you decide to take off your trousers, it will be extremely odd, right? Because all of us are clothed. But if you're in a nudist camp, you would happily take your trousers. Everyone's without their trousers. So it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Wow.
So WhatsApp groups are like that. So when in Twitter or Facebook, there are a lot of things you wouldn't admit to, or you wouldn't, because you don't know what people think about it.
What people would think about, yeah.
But, in a WhatsApp group, it's like a nudist camp. And everyone take their pants off.
Yeah, it's the opposite of like in the internet, you require anonymity to be able to say what you want.
Yeah.
In this place, actually your identity and the identity of everyone that's with you actually empowers you to say whatever you want in that. Yeah. Where your identity actually becomes a strength rather than a weakness.
And sometimes it's depressing to see how people you would otherwise respect or they subscribe to really regressive thoughts. Mm-hmm. And actually, we were just a little while ago having this conversation with Naveen, our producer, and he was talking about a couple of tragic, there was recently this case in Jharkhand where a bunch of people...
Yeah, a mob basically,
who were actually arrested by the police for doing something, children... what was that?
Child trafficking.
Yeah, child trafficking. Yeah.
On that entire thing. So they were caught, lynched, and
in front of the cops. Yeah.
In front of the cops and killed, and that whole thing was fake.
Yeah.
So, it was based on a fake forward, WhatsApp forward.
And that's really where the danger comes in, right? Like all this, like the whether amla has medicinal properties or not, that's okay. It's not going to hurt too many people, but there are lives being lost and. To some extent, elections being won and lost because of things like this.
And actually, that's an entire section by itself where it talks about how we are getting the news in this day and age now. Like earlier, news per se was only received through newspapers. You sent messages to each other about your own personal lives. But now there is this entire, because of platforms like WhatsApp groups, where people can get together and talk about world things and stuff like that. We have started getting our news through a lot of third-party platforms like Facebook and all these things, which has now made individuals news sources.
Yeah.
And that brings into question whether individuals need to be held up to the standards of journalistic integrity, where I am potentially a source of news for someone else. So therefore, am I held accountable for that news? Because of course individuals aren't. I mean, I can just
forwarded as received.
Forwarded as received is a great blanket to put. But if that other person is getting their news through your forward, then doesn't that raise a problem of journalistic integrity at some level?
Yeah, Naveen just told about that incident in a train where someone was talking about Kejriwal burning a 2,000 rupee note, and it was very clearly a fake because that was from an old photograph which showed Kejriwal burning a bill, a Lokpal bill. Yeah, draft of a Lokpal bill. And so somebody's replaced that paper with a 2,000 rupee note. And the people who are debating, it's a crowded local train and they are hotly debating this. And Naveen is the only guy who knows it's a Photoshop picture.
Yeah.
And there is no way in which he can explain to the others what a Photoshop is because they have no clue.
Yeah.
And they take it as gospel truth.
Yeah, they take it at face value, right?
Yeah.
And now you take this and replace it with like something a little more sensitive that has gotten people more agitated. And someone like Naveen who's trying to defend his point, and then you're suddenly having a mob against a guy who's getting lynched. Right, that's exactly it. And actually this actually segues to, I was thinking of how as you know, when riots and all that happen, because of things like WhatsApp and before WhatsApp also message forwards, rumors being spread through that. And so how the government is countering these things and how that also raises another level of problematic where the Indian government has discovered one thing, that if you have a problem with a medium, shut it down.
Yes.
And what that's resulted
I call that a no parking solution. So the solution to parking problem is to put no parking boards everywhere. That's it. Like, you solve the problem. Yeah.
And no parking boards. It's basically saying that like suddenly two kids are playing cricket and one kid did something bad and the other kid is annoyed about it. Father comes and takes the bat and ball away and goes away. Basically, that is the solution that Indian government has. So what they're doing is, especially in the case of the Patel agitation that recently happened in Gujarat. The Gujarat government solution shut down the entire internet. So they shut down the entire internet and they have done it multiple times. In fact, Nikhil Pava from Media Nama has done some great articles about how the Indian government holds the power to arbitrarily shut down the internet and how it's a really problematic thing, especially when you consider that in some countries the internet is now being provided as a fundamental right.
Right, yeah.
And if the government holds the power to shut down a fundamental right, that's a really problematic thing. Like, imagine fundamental rights are like your right to live and stuff like that. Like the government can arbitrarily take that away.
Yeah, which they kind of have in any case by saying your body belongs to us, which Jaitley said. So it's a slippery slope.
One of the things that despite all the bad things we say about what the government is up to, and it's one thing that we must acknowledge is in India we've always had a fairly good degree of personal freedom.
Yeah.
And the prospect of losing that is really, really scary. It's something which we must guard with all our...
Yeah, we probably wouldn't be able to do this podcast in, say, Pyongyang.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
I have a feeling the Indian government's I have a very skeptical view of Indian government's freedom. It's that basically there are way too many of us to monitor. So let's let, most of them are not harming us. Let's let them do whatever the hell they are doing.
Didn't we start this with WhatsApp? WhatsApp forwards.
But circling back to that, they have some really solid, like we saw with the lynching of that one guy. And also in case of demonetization, when that happened, I remember one forward that was making the rounds and it's small alterations. It's not big fake news, but it's small fake news that actually makes a big difference, where someone had actually forwarded that the 500 and 1000 rupee notes were no longer valid. So, or they were banned instead of saying no longer valid, which completely changed the meaning. So, in fact, what that did was, I still remember I was at work that time, and the guy who mans the elevator in our office building, he was literally begging his supervisor to let him off his shift so he can go and get rid of the notes. And it really breaks your heart. And I personally went and told him that, listen, the notes are not banned. They just, you can change them later. They're not banned. Like, they're not become worthless after midnight. And for those guys, if they're holding 1,000 rupee note,
that's practically a huge sum of money.
Yeah, it represents like what, almost a big chunk of their salary. So, this is what fake news does. They've received something, they hold gospel, and they think it's the end of the world when it's not. So, it's almost like you hold the power of that.
One thing is that these, they're facts of nature, right? So, if WhatsApp has come, it's come, and there's nothing you can do about it. Is there anything you think that can be done to, or should be done to regulate or restrict its content?
To be very honest, I don't think restriction will work or...
it's even desirable because that's...
it goes back to that in Harry Potter, I know it's a very awkward segue. In book 5, the Dolores Umbridge tried to ban a particular book that had sensitive newspaper that had sensitive information or something, and the only thing that did was increase demand for that, and that ensured that everybody read it. See, in a way, the same thing will happen over here. People in Gujarat drink like fishes. My theory is that they wouldn't drink as much if there wasn't any prohibition. Maybe they just get a kick out of doing it. Something like that is likely to happen over here as well, I think. I think the problem is a lot more fundamental, and forgive me if I'm going to be a little almost philosophical or idealistic sounding. I think the most important thing that they should teach in school, really, it's not calculus, it's not organic chemistry, it's not even like BODMAS. Sorry for all you BODMAS fans out there. It's quite simply the willingness to question, and willingness to question anything. Like, in my mind, nothing should be held on a pedestal. Like, for example, I idolize a band called Dream Theater, but I should never place them on a pedestal. I should always be aware of the fact that they will one day, they are capable of producing crappy music, which they do. Nothing should be held on a pedestal. Not your parents, not your friends, not... Yeah. I think that questioning of everything is something that needs to fundamentally come in. Once that comes in, a lot of other problems actually get solved. Like, why am I getting angry at this? Why is this forward actually true? Is this news actually true? That I think is missing. I think it's a long-term thing.
I think, what you're saying is almost on the lines of, I think I was reading this somewhere which says that I think the thing that Indians need to be coached the most on is the fact that you can hold two contrasting opinions at the same time in your head. Where you can think that, okay, what BJP is doing is good, but also what they can be doing is bad.
Some things are bad,
So, I mean, you should be you should be comfortable holding both these opinions in your head at the same time. The second thing, adding on to what can be done to regulate WhatsApp forwards and stuff like that, you can't, I mean, I don't think there can be, I mean, as we have seen, this government regulation approach of blanket banning or even filtering of some sort, like for example, what China does with the internet, the Great Firewall of China, so to speak. They are all methods of censorship or restriction, because you cannot have a one-size-fits-all or even either it's a one-size-fits-all policy, which is just restrictive, or it's a filtration policy, which is intrusive. So I think what it comes down to is what Chuck said about having that common sense, and the other part is also having personal responsibility, because now we live in an age where we are the news creators and we are the news circulators. What I send to a group is going to be treated as news, and people are going to get informed by that. I should hold that personal responsibility as well. And the second thing of what Chuck was talking about, of what he does with his WhatsApp groups, I think it's a necessity that if we do see fake news anywhere, even though it might fall to deaf ears most of the time, I think if enough of us started debunking fake news when we saw it in WhatsApp groups, or when we saw it in
anywhere
for that matter, we really should try and debunk that news right there, because then people will start realizing that, okay, there is plenty of fake news that is getting debunked. So let me just put a filter of reason and see whether this thing is fake or not.
In fact, there's one Bangalore techie who started this service where you can forward any WhatsApp to him, and he has a team of, it's obviously a non-paid thing, and he's doing it just for fun. They will actually verify whether this is true or not, and they'll send it back to you.
There is something called Snopes also.
Snopes also. But this is specifically for Indian WhatsApp family.
So it's an Indian
family group.
No, I think while WhatsApp forward seem like the biggest triviality of our life and existence, I think it's one of, like it or not, and because it's so ubiquitous, it is one of the most common ways of people to get their news and information, or just maybe expand their worldview. And all the people are not listeners of Simblified to get verified and updated information about the world from us. So
one optimistic view, if I may, is maybe it's spreading because people are still relatively new to the medium. Now, for example, educated parents or educated uncles and aunties, or who wouldn't normally believe fake news if it came in other sources. Like, for example, suppose a kid were to come home and say, today in school biology teacher said eating kakus will make you fit. It's very they will question that. But the moment it somehow comes on a WhatsApp forward, apologies to all people who are eating dinner while listening to this. If it comes on WhatsApp forward that it came through technology medium something, hence it must be true, verified something.
Correct.
I think people will mature.
It will pass.
It will not pass. Pass kakus. Well done. I see what you did there.
No, but then also another final thing of it is wondering, who actually writes these forwards?
This I want to know. If any one of you are actually writers. It circles back to something Naren said at the very beginning. I suspect all these are done by Mr. Sidin Vadukut, who has written a brilliant book called The Skeptical Patriot, where he rips apart about 5 or 6 of these famous
really
Indian
highly
email
recommended, lovely book.
Highly recommended, one of his best books. Actually, it is his best book. Dork was all rubbish. Sorry, Sidin.
I agree.
So I think there's a lot of debunking of stuff to be done. You can start with this actually. I'd like to know if there's an IQ meter actually. On that very different note, what ended up being more of a ramble than actually simplifying something. Maybe one day we will get around to
and I
breaking this
sincerely
forward
hope
down.
we've got some of you to at least think about it.
Yeah, the next time.
Be the change.
Next time you see a fake WhatsApp forward, do debunk it, and please screenshot all the brickbats you get and send it to us on WhatsApp.
Oh yeah, you know where our Twitter handles are.
Yes,
so,
or on Twitter.
Yeah. You can do your part by forwarding this podcast to all your family WhatsApp groups, but not mine, please.
So if you put 2 cod liver capsules in each ear, your brain will be much healthier, something like that. So stay fit, have a healthier brain.
All right, bye.
Soon. Yeah.
Tada.
एक्सक्यूज मी भैया, एक्सक्यूज मी,
बोलिए मैडम।
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वेक्स है, IVM लाइक्स है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, थिंग्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर सकरबर्ग है और द फैन गराज है। आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम, आप जाओ IVMpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप, सब आपकी उंगलियों पे।